5 people forced their way through a hide-covered mine door in the middle of a whiteout. They expected black stone. They expected frozen dirt. Maybe, if God was generous, a place to crouch until the wind stopped trying to peel the skin from their faces. Instead, their boots touched warm rock. No stove glowed in the corner. No chimney pipe climbed toward the roof. No firewood was stacked against the wall, and yet a slow thread of steam lifted from a narrow pool farther inside the mountain. Outside, the temperature had dropped to 31 below zero. Inside, a brass thermometer beside the sleeping shelf held at 54. At the entrance stood Lena Hartwell, wrapped in a patched deer-hide coat, one hand resting on the neck of a speckled cattle dog named Bracken. And every person who had laughed at her $7 mine hole had the same question written across their frozen faces. How had a woman thrown out before winter, with one canvas bag, one dog, and $7 in coin, built the warmest shelter in Bitterroot Crossing? The answer began 11 weeks earlier. It began with a legal paper. It began with a kitchen that no longer felt like home, and it began 3 days after Jonah Hartwell was buried beneath ground, already stiff with frost. Lena's aunt, Della Hartwell, placed the deed box on the table and opened it without asking permission. Della had married into the family late, after Lena's mother died, and after Jonah's lungs had already started failing from too many winters hauling freight through mountain passes. She had never liked disorder. She liked accounts settled, tools hung straight, doors latched, and people knowing exactly where they stood. That morning, she made sure Lena knew. The ranch house, the small barn, the mule team, the tools, the hay shed, even the winter coal stacked under canvas. All of it sat under Della's name until the bank was satisfied. There were debts. There was a mortgage note. There was feed to buy and snow already pressing against the foothills. Della said it carefully, as if careful words could make a cruel decision less cruel. There was not enough room left for sentiment. Lena reminded her that she had repaired that barn roof twice before she turned 16. She had mended harness, pulled calves in sleet, carried water when the well froze, and kept Jonah's ledgers after his hands began shaking too badly to write. Della did not deny any of it. She only tapped the document and said, "Work does not change ink." Bracken stood near the stove with his ears low, watching both women. Della's voice never rose. That almost made it worse. By morning, Lena would have to leave. Anything that fit in one canvas sack could go. Everything else would remain with the property. For one breath, Lena looked around the room where her life had been measured in chores, seasons, and her father's quiet instructions. Then she understood the first hard truth of that winter. A house could remember you and still not belong to you. That night, she packed without crying. Jonah's brass pocket thermometer, his narrow-bladed whetstone, a tin of sewing needles, 2 shirts, 1 spare skirt, a wool shawl patched so many times it had become more patch than wool, a page torn from her mother's receipt book because her mother's name was written across the top in faded ink, and $7 in silver she had earned herself by mending saddle straps and selling eggs in town. At the foot of the bed lay a heavy blue quilt. Della said it belonged to the house. Lena left it folded exactly where it was. But before closing the canvas sack, she cut a hand-sized square from the worn underside, where no one would notice until later. That piece went into her pocket. By sunrise, a freight driver named Amos Vale lifted her sack onto a wagon and drove her toward Bitterroot Crossing. The road took most of the day. Lena did not speak much. Neither did Amos. Near dusk, the wagon stopped in front of Grady's Mercantile, where the boardwalk was already rimmed with dirty snow. Amos set the sack down, touched the brim of his hat, and said he had been paid to carry her this far. No farther. Then he drove away. The wagon wheels vanished behind a curtain of pale dust and snow. Bracken stayed. He sat beside Lena's boot, watching the road until the last sound of harness bells died. Everyone else in her life had found a reason to leave. The dog did not. Bitterroot Crossing taught newcomers the same lesson quickly. Small money became no money faster than hunger became patience. The cheapest room above the livery cost 90 cents a night, and supper was separate. A week indoors would empty Lena's pocket. Reverend Bly offered a cot behind the church washroom in exchange for laundry, stove tending, floor scrubbing, and care for 3 sick miners who had nowhere else to go. There was only one condition. Bracken would sleep outside. Lena looked through the open washroom door. A girl younger than herself stood over steaming tubs with cracked hands and eyes that had gone flat from exhaustion. The arrangement did not look temporary. It looked like a door that closed from the outside. Later that afternoon, Asa Grady overheard enough to laugh from behind his store counter. He said there was one roof in the county suited to $7. Then he pulled a folded paper from a drawer and slapped it down. A failed cinnabar claim at Cinder Notch. 2.5 acres of shale, scrub pine, and a test tunnel that flooded in spring. No ore worth hauling. No road worth maintaining. No sane buyer in 3 years. Somebody near the Cracker Barrel called it a pauper's chimney. Another man called it a coffin with a draft. The laughter spread easily. Still, Lena looked at the paper. $7. That was all she had. If she kept it, it would disappear in meals and rented corners. If she spent it, nothing would stand between her and hunger except a useless hole in a ridge. Before she could close her fist around the coins, a voice came from the bench beside the stove. Jonah Hartwell's girl. The man who asked was Orrin Sloat, an old packer with a white beard, a ruined knee, and one eye clouded by a scar that weather had not improved. He was not a man who wasted questions. Lena nodded. The store grew quieter. Years earlier, before Lena was old enough to remember, Orrin had been caught above Ragged Pass when a spring storm turned to ice. His mule slid. The pack frame broke. Orrin's leg snapped in 2 places. 2 riders saw him from the trail and kept moving. Jonah Hartwell did not. Jonah roped himself to a pine, crossed a slope already breaking loose, and dragged Orrin down 1 body length at a time. Then he kept the man alive for 4 nights beside a stove. When Orrin tried to repay him, Jonah gave the answer he gave to almost everything. Pass it forward when someone else is standing where you were. Orrin did not tell Lena to buy the mine. He only told her what he had noticed 20 winters before. A patch of stone inside that tunnel had never frosted, even when the mouth froze white. Once, during a cold snap, he had felt warm air sliding through a seam behind fallen rock. He had not been young enough to dig, and nobody else had believed him. The tunnel faced southeast. The ridge should break the worst north wind. At the least, it might keep snow off her face for a night or 2. That was all he promised. Nothing more. Bracken walked to Orrin, sniffed his gloved hand, and sat down, as if the matter had been voted on. Lena pushed the 7 silver dollars across the counter. Asa Grady smiled like a man selling ashes for profit. The paper changed hands. Lena signed her name. And in that moment, Jonah Hartwell's old kindness found a road into the future. The next morning, Orin led Lena and Bracken towards Cinder Notch before the town was fully awake. The trail left wagon ruts behind and climbed through lodgepole pine, rabbit brush, and black shelves of volcanic stone. 4 miles later, the claim appeared. It looked worse in daylight. The tunnel mouth sat under a broken ledge, half hidden by fallen juniper. The opening was no higher than a tall man's shoulder and no wider than a wagon tongue. Inside, the air smelled of wet ash, bat droppings, and old smoke. A rotted timber brace leaned against one wall. Mud crusted the floor. The ceiling was blackened where some previous fools had tried to camp with a fire and nearly smoked himself dead. Lena said nothing. Orin let the disappointment do its work. Then he pointed out what disappointment missed. The ledge above the entrance made snow slide away instead of burying the mouth. Morning sun reached the first 12 feet of floor. The ridge blocked the main winter wind. 40 paces in, a fall of shale and clay sealed the old tunnel. Near the bottom of the fall, a crack remained. Bracken walked straight to it. He did not nose the entrance. He did not choose the sunlit strip of stone. He pressed his muzzle near the crack, breathed once, and lay down with his shoulder against the rock. Orin watched him. Dogs got less pride than a man, he said. That makes him useful. Lena knelt. She slid 2 fingers into the gap. A faint current touched her skin. Not hot, not strong, but warmer than the tunnel around it. Orin left her with 3 things: a roll of wagon canvas, a short coil of wire rope, and an old brass thermometer with the numbers worn almost smooth from years in his coat pocket. Then he headed back before the ridge swallowed the light. Lena spent the afternoon making the worthless mine less worthless. She scraped bat filth away with a strip of bark. She dragged the fallen brace across the entrance and tied canvas over it. She wedged stones at the bottom to stop the wind from lifting the cloth. She cut pine boughs for a bed on the driest shelf she could find. At sunset, she checked the thermometer. Outside, the air read 26 degrees. Near the entrance, 32. Beside the crack, 41. The number made her stop. A 9-degree difference could be luck. 15 degrees was a clue. That night, the canvas snapped like a sails in hard wind. Sleep came in pieces. Each time Lena woke, Bracken was not near her bed. He had returned to the blocked passage. After midnight, the wind fell away for less than a minute. In that quiet, Lena heard it. Water. Not a drip. A steady, hidden run of it. By dawn, curiosity had become work. Using Jonah's narrow whetstone as a wedge, a rusted pry bar found under the mud, and a pine lever cut with Orin's knife, Lena began loosening clay around the crack. The work was slow and foolishly dangerous. Twice, small stones rattled down and struck her shoulders. Once, a slab shifted enough to make Bracken bark and drag her backward by the edge of her skirt. By afternoon, her palms were split. By evening, a stone the size of a flour barrel gave way, rolled forward, hit the floor, and left a black opening where solid wall had been. Warm air breathed out. This time, it carried the smell of minerals. Sharp, clean, ancient. Lena widened the gap just enough for her shoulders, tied a cord around her waist, and crawled through with the thermometer clutched in one hand. The passage sloped down. Then it opened. The chamber beyond the fall was larger than the house she had just lost. Not wider, maybe, but deeper in a way a house could never be. The ceiling rose nearly 18 feet. The floor stepped down in shelves of black and gray stone. At the center sat a narrow pool shaped like a bent blade. Steam lifted from its surface and drifted toward a dark throat high in the ceiling. Water entered through a crack in the rear wall, ran silver over mineral-stained rock, then slipped under a low shelf and vanished somewhere below. Lena measured everything she could before wonder made her useless. At the hottest trickle, the water climbed past 148 degrees. At the pool edge, it held near 101. Chest-high air near the dry eastern shelf read 53. A pocket above the pool read 60. The outer tunnel, by comparison, had fallen to 34. The mountain was not warm everywhere. It was warm in a pattern. That mattered. Lena tied a thread to a splinter and watched it lean. Air lifted above the pool, moved toward the ceiling throat, then settled lower and colder along the western floor. The mountain was breathing, not kindly, not magically, mechanically, and if she did not learn the rhythm, it could kill her as easily as winter could. Bracken performed his own inspection. He sniffed the hot water, sneezed, circled the dry shelf, and settled there with his chin on his paws. Lena wrote the first new entry in Jonah's old ledger that night. Heat comes through water. Warmth stays in stone. Cold sits low. Steam must leave. The $7 were gone. But for the first time since the kitchen table, Lena owned something no one could hitch to a wagon. The next several days were not a miracle. They were labor. The warm pool was too damp to sleep beside. The high shelf was dry but uneven. So Lena built a sleeping platform from willow poles, broken crate boards, and pine lashings, raising it 2 feet off the stone. She dragged flat rocks into place for a step. She hung her canvas at the outer entrance, then built a second inner curtain from elk hide Orrin brought from his shed. Between those two barriers, she left 3 feet of dead air. Cold wind entered the first door and lost its teeth before reaching the second. She sealed gaps with moss, clay, and ash. She moved food into pockets above shoulder height. She carved a shallow drain across the western floor so condensation and runoff would move away from the sleeping shelf. Every improvement was small enough to look ridiculous alone. Together, they changed the chamber. One evening, she placed a lidded tin cup of soaked beans near the hotter water channel and weighed it down with a stone. By morning, the beans were not fully cooked, but they were soft. The mountain was slow. It was not weak. A week after she bought the claim, Lena checked the thermometer before sleeping. The platform held at 51. By morning, with both curtains sealed, it had climbed to 56. 5 degrees gained without fire. No chopped wood, no coal dust, no smoke in the lungs. Just less heat escaping. She wrote the number down. Then she sat beside Bracken and laughed once, quietly, because anything louder would have felt like bragging to the stone. For 4 days, she believed she had solved the place. On the 5th, the place corrected her. Her wool shawl felt damp. The pine boughs beneath the platform smelled sour. A corner of cornmeal had clumped with mold. At night, beads of water gathered on the ceiling, swelled, and dropped onto her face one by one. The chamber was holding warmth. It was also holding breath, steam, and rot. When she opened the inner curtain, the bed dried, but the temperature fell from 56 to 48 before midnight. When she closed it, warmth returned. So did the damp. The mountain was teaching the second rule. Heat without air becomes a trap. Around the same time, Bracken refused the western corner. Lena had planned to use it for supplies because it looked wide and convenient. The dog stepped into it, turned in a circle, and left. Every time. Lena finally crouched with her cheek near the floor. Cold air moved there like invisible water. The corner was not empty. It was a basin. She moved everything. Cornmeal, salt, thread, dry socks, lamp oil. All of it went to a shelf more than 5 feet above the floor. She hung slanted bark panels over the bed to guide dripping moisture away. She deepened the western drain until cold air and water both had somewhere lower to gather. Orrin returned with a crude humidity gauge made from horsehair tied across a bent twig frame. When the hair tightened, the air was too dry. When it slackened, the chamber was getting wet. It looked childish. It worked. 3 days later, the bed held at 54. The shawl stayed dry. The cornmeal remained loose. The cave no longer felt like a lucky hiding place. It felt like a system. By late November, Lena had begun living by its measurements. At dawn, she checked the vent. At noon, she checked the drain. At dusk, she logged temperature, air movement, and water level. Traps went out along rabbit runs below the ridge. A deadfall guarded the food shelf from mice. She marked every snare with willow tags so bracken would not step into them. Hides dried near the outer tunnel where the air was cooler. Meat stayed in a stone pocket outside the heated chamber. Anything that could mold stayed high. Anything that could freeze stayed close to the warm shelf. When the north wind slammed the ridge, the entrance chilled hard, but the sleeping shelf moved only 2 or 3 degrees. The more Lena measured, the less the mountain felt like luck, and the less she needed anyone in Bitterroot Crossing to understand. In the first week of December, she went back to town with 3 rabbit pelts, 1 fox hide, and boots she had repaired with rawhide stitches. The store fell quieter when she entered, not because people respected her, because she was supposed to look worse. Instead, her coat was dry. Her face was thinner but steady. Bracken's spotted coat shone with health. Asa Grady leaned both elbows on the counter. "That pauper's chimney smoked you out yet?" A few men chuckled. Lena placed the pelts down, asked for salt, lamp oil, cornmeal, and a small tin pot with a tight lid. She paid from trapping money, not borrowed money. That mattered to her whether or not anyone else understood. The door opened before Asa could make another joke. Lena Hartwell stepped inside wearing Jonah's old buffalo coat. Behind her, through the frosted window, Lena saw a sled loaded with split wood and 2 sacks of coal. Winter had barely begun. Della noticed the repaired boots first, then the dog, then Lena's face. "Whose shed took pity on you?" she asked. Lena folded the tin pot into her sack. "My own roof." When the room learned she meant the abandoned claim at Cinder Notch, laughter returned. Della smiled with almost real relief, as if Lena's foolishness restored the story to its proper order. "Wait for January," she said. "Stone doesn't love anybody." Lena gave no answer. Because Della was right about one thing. Stone did not love anybody. That was why it could be trusted. By mid-December, winter began collecting from everyone. First, the freight wagons slowed. Then the coal shipment from the rail spur missed its schedule. Then firewood prices climbed from $3 a cord to $5, and then higher, because men with saws learned what desperation was worth. Large houses suffered most. Every parlor demanded heat. Every upstairs room stole it. Every crack in a window became a mouth eating money. At the Hartwell Ranch, Della burned through the first woodpile before Christmas. After that came broken fence rails, then a door from the empty smokehouse, then boards from a wagon shed Jonah had built with his own hands. Mortgage money became fuel. Fuel became smoke. Smoke became ash. On Cinder Notch, Lena faced different troubles. Snares vanished under new snow. Rabbits moved lower. Ice thickened at the outer entrance each morning. The trail to town became a risk instead of a route. Food stayed uncertain. But one burden had lifted from her back. She did not spend her daylight cutting warmth into stove lengths. On January 3rd, she wrote a line in Jonah's ledger. No wood burned for heat this winter. Only 7 words. But inside those 7 words lived every hour not spent chopping, hauling, splitting, stacking, and feeding flame. Orrin came 2 days later, with his beard white from frozen breath. He brought news from the valley and a warning from the sky. Birds had left the brush earlier than they should. Axe strokes carried too clearly across the basin. The air felt hollow. Cold's coming, he said, the kind that makes smart people foolish. That night, Lena stood outside the tunnel mouth and looked down toward Bitterroot Crossing. Chimney smoke rose from almost every roof. Each plume meant a family was warm. Each plume also meant a pile of wood was smaller than it had been an hour before. The cold arrived during the second week of January, not as a storm at first, as silence. The air sharpened until leather creaked. Snow lost its softness and blew like ground glass. By the 3rd day, the outer thermometer read 18 below before sunset. By the 4th, 26 below. Then the wind found the ridge. A slab of hard-packed snow slid from the ledge above Lena's entrance and sealed itself against the outer canvas. Inside, nothing seemed wrong. The platform stayed warm. The pool steamed. The bed remained dry. Then the lamp flame shrank. At first, Lena blamed the oil. She trimmed the wick. The flame improved, then sagged again. Black soot gathered along the glass. Bracken rose from the shelf. He paced once. Stopped. Looked toward the ceiling throat. Then looked at Lena. Orrin's warning returned. Warm air is not fresh air. Lena climbed toward the vent with the lamp in one hand. The ceiling opening should have been drawing steam upward. Instead, the thread tied near it hung nearly still. Somewhere in the narrow shaft, damp air had frozen into a plug. The mountain was warm, but it had stopped breathing. Opening the front door could bring a wall of packed snow into the tunnel and trap her deeper. Leaving the vent blocked could make the chamber a coffin with comfortable walls. Lena took the willow pole she kept for emergencies and climbed onto the highest shelf. The first jab struck nothing. The second scraped stone. The third hit ice. She drove the pole upward again and again until her shoulders burned. A sharp crack snapped inside the shaft. A shower of frost fell across her face. Then the chamber changed. Cold air slid low along the floor. Warm, damp air lifted again toward the throat. The lamp brightened. Bracken stopped pacing. The thermometer fell from 56 to 50. Lena watched the lost degrees and did not mourn them. The safest shelter was not the warmest one. It was the one that could keep breathing. By morning, she had rigged a hood over the vent from a bent piece of stovepipe Orrin had given her. She tied a rope to the outer barrier so it could be pulled open from inside if snow sealed it again. She added another entry to the ledger. Never trade air for warmth. Below the ridge, the valley had not learned that lesson yet. The cold settled over Bitterroot Crossing and stayed. Night temperatures fell between 28 and 35 below. The wind cut sideways across the basin at more than 50 miles an hour. Snow dust drove through window cracks, under doors between warped boards, into rooms people had thought were tight. At the Hartwell ranch, smoke began backing into the kitchen, where the chimney collar had split. The porch roof bowed under drifting snow. The second reserve pile disappeared. Della sent for Amos Vale before daylight on the 9th day. The plan was simple. Ride into town, wait out the cold near the church stove, return when the storm loosened. But plans are made by people indoors. Weather does not attend. On the road, Amos found a widow named Ruth Carver and her small son beside a cabin, whose door had frozen shut from the outside. Farther on, Asa Grady and Reverend Bly were helping two old miners from a shanty where the stovepipe had collapsed. One sled became the sensible answer. For half a mile it was. Then the world vanished. The wind erased the road. Snow erased the fence line. The horses lowered their heads and guessed. A runner struck buried stone. The sled lurched sideways. One horse reared. A trace chain snapped. The load twisted hard enough to throw Reverend Bly into the snow and pin one of the runners under the drift. They were stranded at the foot of Cinder Notch, less than half a mile from Lena's tunnel. Not one person knew it. Inside the chamber, Lena was checking the drain when Bracken lifted his head. His ears sharpened. The dog did not bark. He went still. That was worse. Then he moved toward the outer passage. Lena heard only wind. Then the storm thinned for one heartbeat. A sound crossed the snow. Faint, metallic. A harness bell striking once, then silence. Lena was already reaching for the wire rope. She tied one end around the iron stake inside the entrance and the other around her waist. She pulled on Jonah's old mittens, threw the deer-hide coat over her shoulders, and checked the knot twice. Bracken shoved through the gap first. The storm took him. Lena followed the rope into white blindness. Snow hit her face hard enough to steal breath. The world ended 3 steps ahead. Twice she saw nothing but the rope leaving her hands. Then Bracken's dark spots appeared, vanished, appeared again. She followed those spots. A broken sled emerged from the snow like the ribs of an animal. People huddled beside it. Ruth Carver held her son under both arms. Reverend Bly's beard was crusted white. Asa Grady had one glove missing, and Lena Hartwell sat against the tilted runner with Jonah's buffalo coat wrapped around the little boy instead of herself. For the first time since autumn, nobody looked rich enough to be safe. Rescue took time because winter charged for every step. Lena tied each person to the line before moving. Amos helped lift the boy. Asa and Bly dragged the injured runner clear so no one would trip over it in the whiteout. Bracken worked the edges of the group, circling forward, dropping back, driving stragglers toward the rope when the wind pushed them sideways. One trip became 2, then 3. The last 30 yards felt longer than the road from town. When the final person crossed the tunnel mouth, the first relief was only the absence of wind. A few people sagged against the outer wall. They thought that was the shelter. Then Lena opened the inner hide curtain. Nobody moved for a moment. Steam drifted over the blade-shaped pool. The stone shelves glowed with lamplight. Dry blankets sat rolled in a wall pocket. Meat hung in the cool outer section. A tin pot rested over the warm water channel. The thermometer near the sleeping platform read 54 degrees. Asa Grady stared around the chamber. His eyes searched for the answer he understood. A stove. A coal box. A fire. There was none. What heats it? His voice came out smaller than his body. Lena pointed to the water entering from the rear crack, then to the stone floor, then to the ceiling vent. Water brings it in, she said. Stone holds it. Air has to carry the wet out. That was all the explanation anyone received at first, because cold people needed order before wonder. Ruth's boy was placed on the warmest shelf. Wet gloves went near the moving air, not near the pool. Boots stayed by the outer passage where meltwater would not soak the living shelf. Della received a blanket without a word passing between her and Lena. Reverend Bly took charge of melting drinking water. Amos checked the ceiling vent every hour with the willow pole. Asa, perhaps for the first useful time in Lena's life, followed instructions exactly. The chamber changed under the burden of 6 extra bodies. Breath added moisture. Wet wool steamed. The thermometer slipped from 54 to 51. Asa noticed. "Close the vent," he said. "You're losing heat." Lena shook her head. Then she opened the vent wider. For several minutes the decision looked wrong. The air cooled. The number dropped another degree. Then the fog thinned. The lamp steadied. Droplets stopped forming overhead, and the thermometer settled at 52. "The mountain has to breathe," Lena said. This time nobody laughed. Night deepened. The storm pressed against the ridge. Inside, the cave held. Della sat wrapped in the blanket Lena had handed her, staring at the shelf beside the bed. Jonah's thermometer lay there. The torn square of blue quilt rested beneath it. A ledger sat open, filled not with complaints, but with temperatures, air notes, water levels, and repairs. Della saw all of it. She saw the life Lena had built from the things she had been allowed to carry, and from the things she had not. No apology came, no accusation either. The cave had made both of them smaller than the truth in front of them. Near the entrance, Bracken slept with his nose toward the cold passage, guarding the line where winter tried to enter. The storm held them for almost 2 more days. By then, nobody argued with the mountain's terms. When the wind finally eased enough to travel, Asa insisted on checking the numbers before they left. Outside the tunnel mouth, 29 below. Outer passage, 35. Inner chamber, 53 with 5 people, 1 boy, 1 dog, and damp clothing still inside. Water at the rear source, 151. Asa wrote the numbers on the back of a flower receipt. Then he stared at them as if they had insulted him personally. Numbers were difficult to mock. The story reached Bitterroot Crossing before the sled did. At first, people made it bigger, then smaller, then strange. Some said Lena had found a hot spring under the ridge. Some said the mine was cursed in a useful way. Some said Oren had known all along. Asa, who preferred his lies profitable and his facts undeniable, eventually stopped embellishing. He had seen the thermometer. He had slept on warm stone with no stove in sight. The old nickname faded after that. Fewer people called it the Pauper's Chimney. Some asked permission to see the place. A few brought supplies without calling it payment. Asa came once with an offer. $40. Lena declined. In February, he returned with 75. She declined again. She never reminded him that he had sold the claim for 7. That would have wasted breath. The ledger had already said enough. Winter continued collecting elsewhere. At the Hartwell ranch, there was nothing left to argue with. Fuel had eaten the mortgage money. The chimney repair had eaten the savings. The mule team sold below value. The bank took the rest with less ceremony than Della had used at the kitchen table. Before leaving for relatives in Helena, Della asked Lena to meet her outside the mercantile. The morning was cold and bright. For a long moment, Della said nothing. Then she reached into her carpet bag and brought out Jonah's carpenter level. The brass ends were dented. The glass vial was still true. This should not have stayed with the house, Della said. She held it out. Lena took it. No apology followed. Maybe Della had none she knew how to give. Maybe the winter had taken too much pride for words to stand on. Either way, the level changed hands. That was all. Later, on the ridge, Lena set the carpenter level beside the thermometer and the torn blue square of quilt. One object measured straightness. One measured heat. One measured what a person could lose and still carry. Years passed. Cinder Notch changed one careful improvement at a time. A stone vestibule replaced the sagging canvas door. A second vent rose through the upper crack with a hood shaped to shed snow. The hot water channel was lined with fitted stone and guided under a bench where boots dried through the worst storms. A shallow cistern caught overflow before it left the mountain. Blankets, beans, lamp oil, spare mittens, and rope lived in labeled wall niches. Orrin Sloat lived 3 more winters. When his knee failed for good, Lena carried mineral water to his cabin and sat with him while Bracken slept by the stove. Near the end, Orrin spoke again of Lena Hartwell, pulling him from the pass. For years he had believed showing Lena the claim had paid the old debt. The blizzard had changed his mind. Kindness isn't a debt, he told her. It's a fire you hand off before your hands go cold. After Orrin died, Lena kept teaching what the mountain had taught her. How cold air pools low. How wet air rots food before frost ever reaches it. How a shelter can be warm and dangerous at the same time. How an airlock saves more heat than pride. How a vent must never be sacrificed for a few extra degrees. Farmers copied her double-door entry on root cellars. Freighters learned to keep emergency ropes near winter trails. Families in Bitterroot Crossing began storing blankets and dry food on high shelves instead of damp floors. The shelter became less of a secret and more of a promise. Lena kept one rule above the entrance. Not written fancy, not carved deep, just plain letters burned into a board. During a storm, no one pass. If the mountain had room, the door opened. Children who had not been born during that January grew up hearing about the warm stone under Cinder Notch. Travelers knew to look for the low stone face cut into the ridge. And almost every person who passed through remembered the same image. A speckled dog lying near the cold entrance. Steam moving quietly behind him. And a woman checking the vent before she checked anything else. Years after Orrin was gone, Lena opened Jonah's ledger to the first page she had written in the chamber. Heat comes through water. Warmth stays in stone. Cold sits low. Steam must leave. The handwriting looked younger. The lesson did not. She placed the ledger back beside the brass thermometer and listened to wind crossing the ridge outside. The town remembered the warm cave as a miracle. Lena knew better. A miracle asks nothing from you. The mountain asked every day, measure, repair, breathe, share. And when the next storm crossed Cinder Notch, the warmest place in Bitterroot Crossing was not the biggest house, or the richest room, or the stove that burned the most wood. It was the stone shelter that stayed alive because one woman had learned the difference between holding heat and keeping warmth.